Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Alhamdulillah, it's an immense honor and pleasure to be able to communicate with our students again on this beautiful night of Ramadan. And for this particular session, I have selected to speak about the first revelation, okay, on Laylat al Qadr. That would be Iqra, Surat al-Alaq. I'll spend some time speaking about that and then end off with another surah of the Quran, and that is Surat al Qadr. Okay, and I'll show the connection, try to show the connection between the two. We know that Ramadan, now the name for Ramadan, is also the Shahr al-Sabr, okay, and the Shahr al-Quran. It is the month of endurance and patience, but it is preeminently the month of the Quran, okay? According to the majority of the scholars, the Quran was revealed sometime in Makkah. Many of them are of the opinion it was on the 27th Laylat al Qadr, which it is not with us tonight. It is the 28th year, but it doesn't matter. And others are of the view that Laylat al Qadr, a large body of scholars, that Laylat al Qadr is during the last 10 days of Ramadan, leading up to Eid al-Fitr. That's just a bit of a background, okay? What I want to speak about tonight, what I want to present to you, is how this first revelation came into effect and what lessons we can take from that particular revelation, and all the little things in between that are in fact enlightening, helpful in our understanding of this great revelation, the revelation of the Quran. So as a preamble, I will start off by saying that at the age of about 35 years, the Prophet ﷺ went up to Ghar Hira, the cave of Hira, where he performed, in Arabic they call it tahannuth, okay? Tahannuth broadly means to seek spiritual purity or religious purity and things like that. But we would probably translate that as meditation and contemplation. But that is what it did successively for 5 long years until the age of 40. Okay, and at that point his wife Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, Khadija al-Kubra, Khadija the Great, she was 55 years of age. Okay, so it was during the 40th year, okay, when he was in his 40s, when on an occasion he was meditating, contemplating within Ghar Hira, that this tumultuous event occurred, okay, where he came face to face with Jibreel alayhi salam, and he had no idea, no clue as to what was happening. He was shocked, as his state afterwards showed. He was completely shocked. And to cut it short, to keep it brief, we know that Jibreel approached our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he embraced him. And these are the very first few ahadith in Bukhari, Sahih Bukhari. The first few hadiths, they deal with the revelation. Okay? And so it goes that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, فأخذني فغتني حتى بلغ مني الجهد ثم أرسلني. He grabbed me, embraced me to the point where all my energy was expended. All my energy was expended. ثم أرسلني, and then he let me go. And he said to me, Iqra. His response was, Ma ana bikari, I cannot read. And then it happened a second time, فأخذني فغتني حتى بلغ مني الجهد ثم أرسلني. And then he said again, Iqra. This happened 3 times. And the third time he said again, Ma ana bikari, I cannot read. And with that, on the third time, the revelation, the first revelation was revealed. So we call it Surat al-Alaq. And those are the first 5 ayat in Surat al-Alaq. And it goes like this. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Beautiful. So these are the first few words, 5 lines. The first few words, which in English we could translate as, read in the name of your Lord and Cherisher, the Rabb, who created the human being from a clot of blood, or that which clings. Read, and your Lord is most bountiful. He who taught the use of the pen, he who taught the use of the pen, taught humanity that which they knew not. A complete revolution, in terms of a revelation. This is almost a revolutionary in its nature. To bring the Prophet, his mind to this great sort of vocation that he will have to embrace, and all the misgivings that the Prophet had about that particular moment. But that was the first revelation, the first 5 lines. Now, there are a number of things we can learn about this. When this had completed, pardon, he left for home. He was completely shocked. He was in a state of trauma, and then he left for home. He went down and came to Khadija. Now, many of us know the distance from Jabal Nur, which it is now called, right down to Mecca, and he stayed around the precincts of the Haram. So it was a long journey back. When he got there, she could see, Khadija al-Kubra, she could see that he was deeply and profoundly disturbed. And as he walked into the house, he said to her, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, inni qad khashitu ala nafsi. Subhanallah. This is what he is saying. He's not celebrating a revelation. Nothing like that. He comes in and he says, close me, wrap me up. Inni qad khashitu ala nafsi. I am afraid for myself. It did not yet occur to him that he was a prophet sent by Allah Ta'ala, and he is in this trauma. And then she did just that. This woman played a great role, people. This woman is not called Khadija al-Kubra for nothing. Khadija the Great. She's great, and she will always be great. And all men need to remember that. And listen to her words when that happened. When he had said and expressed self-doubt, wondered whether he was going mad, wondered if this was the moment of insanity, whatever. And she says the following words to him, immortal words. She says to him and holding him, calming him down. And she says, Kalla wallahi, I swear, no, no. I swear in the name of Allah. La yughzikullahu abada. Allah will never disgrace you. La yughzikullahu abada. Innaka latasilu rahim. You are a person who mend and you unite family relations. وَتَحْمِلُ كَلْ, and you help the poor, and you help, and you bear, the burden of the weak. وَتَكْسِبُ مَعَدُومٍ, you help the poor and the needy. وَتَكْسِبُ الْمَعَدُومِ, that is, that you help the poor and the needy, and also وَتَقْرِي الضَّيْفِ, and you are hospitable towards your guests. And lastly, she says, وَتُعِينُ عَلَى نَوَائِبِ الْحَقِّ, and you always stand firm for the cause of justice, no matter what that cause is. And for these 5 qualities of yours, Allah Ta'ala will never disgrace you. That heartened me to an extent. But in addition, what she did, and I will get to that later on, what she then did was, for further comfort, for further confirmation, she told him to dress up, and she took him, to her first cousin, Waraka bin Nawfal, okay, who was a high priest at the time, and he had written the entire Torah on his head in Hebrew. He was a fairly learned person. But before we get there, let us just speak about the multiple meanings that are contained within these particular ayat. We shall start off with that. Okay, I have mentioned briefly some of these ideas to some of our students. I'll expand a little bit on it now. It will be a revision for some, but it should be equally helpful for those who have not heard a talk like this from me before. Okay, when we look at Iqra, we see that there are 3 dimensions to this. Number 1, Iqra and Tarbiyah. Iqra and Tarbiyah. Iqra and education, holistic education. Allah Ta'ala didn't say in here, and we could well have said Iqra Bismillahi alladhi khalaq, or any of the other names. But Allah Ta'ala chose for the very first revelation the term Rabb, which has multiple meanings: to raise, to nurture, to nourish, to enrich. All of these meanings are contained in Rabb, Tarbiyah. So if you're a Murabbi, you're a person in charge of nurturing a child, a young person, for example, nourishing them, enriching them with knowledge and all sorts of things, okay? That is what it really means. So Allah did not say, Iqra Bismillah, He said, Iqra Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq. And that is so critically important. And so we see from here that Tarbiyah in Arabic, in English is education, okay? Broadly speaking, education. So we see that there are three aspects to this. The first one I mentioned now, Tarbiyah, holistic education. The second one is Ikhlas, and the third one is Ilm, or knowledge. And I will take each of them individually, okay? The first one here is At-Tarbiyah. Nazala bi-ismi al-Murabbi, as we say. Allah, this ayah was revealed with the name of Allah Ta'ala as Murabbi and as Rabb, which is critical for us to understand. And that this is tarbiyah in the form of divine revelation. This points us to what? Where Islamic education is concerned, or Muslim education is concerned, to holistic education, people. It encompasses our systems of belief, our morality, law, ethics, spirituality, understanding our social systems, and society on the whole, and a bit more of that later on, inshallah ta'ala. It is holistic, okay? So this divine holistic education embraces both knowledge of this world and guidance towards the other. Because the Quran, in the very first articulation within the Quran, in its current order, the first surah apart from Surah Al-Fatiha is, of course, Alif Lam Mim. Okay? And in there, Allah Ta'ala says, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is a book that has been revealed, and there is no doubt in this book. Okay? Why? Because it is a huda, it is a guidance for people of taqwa, for people who are intensely conscious of Allah Ta'ala, conscious of their relationship with Allah Ta'ala, and at the same time conscious of the duties that they need to execute in the way of Allah Ta'ala. So that is the first one. Iqra bismi rabbika al-tarbiyah. Tarbiyah is so important, and I will end up with that also at the end of this talk, inshallah ta'ala. The second one is Iqra wal ikhlas. Iqra and sincerity. These are all the things we look for people, is it not so? When we learn by them, when we do things, is a man sincere, is he not sincere? Sincerity is a very, very important trait in human nature. Is it not so? No one will argue about that. So what happened was, after he had said to Zamiluni, Zamiluni, inni qad khashitu ala nafsi, she became worried and said, look, let us go down to Waraka ibn Nawfal. Let's go to my cousin. Okay, he's a paternal cousin of Sayyidina Khadija. And he agreed. He agreed. And he went down to Waraka. And when Waraka ibn Nawfal heard these words, he believed immediately. Waraka penned the entire Torah in Hebrew. He was the foremost priest of his time in that part of the world. Okay? But few options were available to him when he heard these words from a man who did not want wealth, he didn't want rank or status. All he requested from humanity was to recite, to read, research, and research in the name of Allah. In the name of Allah Ta'ala. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. That's all that is calling our attention to. And for divine instruction to form the basis of our society. Divine instruction to form the basis of our society. We might, people well ask, under these circumstances, is it possible to call Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a liar or a hypocrite, a deluded person, and a charlatan? Given the nature of the experience he underwent, given the doubt almost that had besieged him, I ask the question, if you think so, and if you speculate in that way, then who may be called truthful and sincere on this planet of ours? Who can claim to be truthful? Who can claim to be sincere? If we do not accept the revelation that came to him, and he's speaking about it as sincere. He showed, he was traumatized when he was with Sayyidina Khadija. He agreed to go down to have himself tested by one of the foremost priests of the time. He was prepared. They could have laughed at him. Waraka could have turned his back on him and said, oh, laughing, you know, we have a new madman, an insane human being here in our community. But none of that. In fact, he, Waraka ibn Nawfal, then confirmed for him. And he said, look, I know that is the same namus, the same spirit that had descended upon Nabi Musa. So don't worry about that. It is the same one. And he says, then he said to him, however, if you go public with this revelation, you will be ostracized and you will be expelled from Makkah. And his response was, Amukhrijiyahum? Will they chuck me out just because I'm speaking about Allah? A simple message. And then Waraka confirms for him that there's not been a prophet of the prophets of Allah Ta'ala who has not been persecuted. All of them were opposed and persecuted. And he accepted that. And yet Warqa then said to him, if I live until the day that they execute you and that they persecute you, I will be by your side and I will be a Muslim by your side. Unfortunately, a few days later, Warqa ibn Nawfal passed away. A few days after that particular event. If this is not ikhlas, people, then what constitutes ikhlas? Let's go on to the third one, iqra and ilm, and knowledge as such. There are few aspects in life, people, and particularly in Islam, that are more important than the acquisition of ilm, of knowledge. It is, as I've mentioned hundreds of times, it is the second most used word and mentioned word in the Quran after Allah Ta'ala, after Allah, as Tawheed, and the third one is Adala, justice. You've heard this from me many times, okay? And here we have to just highlight this side of it, that ilm is very important with respect to this particular surah, Surah Al-Alaq. And there are so many, and I just feel free of your own enrichment. I'll just quote 2 or 3 ayat that support this particular view. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, Kul, هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? A rhetorical question. Allah Ta'ala asks the question, are those who do not know equal to those who know? Can't be. In another verse, Allah Ta'ala says, يَرْفُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah Ta'ala raises in His estimation, raises in their status, people of Iman, and وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ, and those who have been granted knowledge, those who have been granted ilm, darajat, levels upon levels upon levels. These are the incentives provided by the Quran for us to go in pursuit of knowledge, people. And again, a third one, beautiful. بل هو آيات بينات في صدور الذين أوتوا العلم. Very, very critical to understand this particular ayah. Indeed, says Allah Ta'ala, these ayat, these verses are clear for whom? In the breasts of those who have been given ilm, who have been given knowledge. And that is why it's so important for us to seek, to become lifetime seekers of knowledge. Our lifetime quest ought to be a quest of seeking knowledge. Why? Because then the meanings will become bayyin in our hearts and in our minds, will become clear and clarified, and making sense within our own minds. So those are the 3 ayat that I just want to quote with respect to the importance of ilm. And in addition to that, knowledge is not confined to al-ilm al-madi, as we call it in Arabic, to the material sciences and the experimental sciences. بل يوجه الإنسان إلى مصدر آخر. On the other hand, it directs us to another source. Apart from the dunyawi source, there's an ukhrawi source. And the Quran directs us to that for ilm and ma'rifah. Ilm means the knowledge that we acquire so when we study for that. Ma'rifah is normally inspired knowledge. Okay? Or kashfiyah, or ilahiyah, or knowledge that are inspired in us. Okay? Through divine assistance of whatever sort. These are the types of ilm that we have to take cognizance of within Islam. So while the first one, the ilm al-madi, is dependent upon our rationality, our intellects, our brains that Allah Ta'ala has given us to think about, the other one, the ma'rifat al-ashwaqiyah and kashfiyah, those of illumination and of enlightenment, and so on and so forth, and of divine origin. These work not through the discursive rational faculties of the brain, they work through the heart. the qalb and the ruh and the basira, that spiritual insight that Allah Ta'ala has divinely placed within ourselves. And that is why it's important for us to look at, when we look at ilm, and to look at it in this broad and holistic way, and then also to tie the knot, to tie the various pieces, so that our vision can be complete, so that our vision can be holistic, in other words. So Allah Ta'ala says elsewhere in the Quran, لا تقف ما ليس لك به علم إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا. So says Allah Ta'ala, and do not follow that of which you have no knowledge. Don't. It's haram for us to do that. Why? Because the sama, our hearing, our basar, our sight, the fu'ad is a poetic term for qalb, for the heart. All of these will be held responsible on the day of judgment. All of them. How did you use these faculties to forward and progress the nature and imperatives of this dunya on which we live? How did we use them? Abuse them? What did we do? Okay, so what is quite clear from this particular ayah is that there are two categories of knowledge. The one contained in as-sam' wal-basar, in the hearing and in the sight, and the second one in the heart or the fu'ad. Okay, and the sam and the basar, of course, reference our material and physical sciences. Okay, and the heart, on the other hand, and experimental sciences. And the heart, on the other hand, references inspirational and experiential knowledge. Inspirational and experiential knowledge, of which we have to try in order to cultivate an awareness and to connect with this kind of knowledge. Knowledge that are inspired and knowledge that you gain through experience, experiential knowledge. Okay, one can give a rather crude example of that. I can describe fire to you, and then I can tell you that the colors and all sorts of things, and then I can tell you it burns very hot. You'll have an idea of that. This is very simple, but it delivers the point. And I can show you the fire, which will increase your certainty about it. But then I can ask you to put your hand into that fire, to burn yourself for a short while. Now that is experiential knowledge. You will never know what it is. Do you know how many children learn from experiential knowledge? It's not mothers slapping their hands away from the stove and so on. It's at one moment that they get their hands through and they feel the heat and they withdraw. That's far more convincing. That is far more effective than the mother just knocking the hand of a child away. That's experiential knowledge. So we learn as children, we learn with our senses. Our senses are alive. Okay? And so much of what we learn as children is of the experiential nature. And we tend to lose that as we progress through our lives. So those are the three levels, that we need to take note of with respect to Surat Al-Alaq. The first one, it is the importance of tarbiyah, that holistic education. The second thing, the ikhlas, with which Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had delivered that very first revelation. And then next, the question of ilm, of knowledge. Okay, now I would just like to dwell very shortly on the nature of this knowledge, its applications, how do we relate to it, how do we conceptualize and how to, etc., etc. First of all, there are points of reference for education in any civilization, in any nation, in any society. There are points of reference. There are, broadly speaking, three points of reference. Is it not? Number one, there is the individual. Number two, there is society. And number three, there is the content of reality. The content. What does this reality around me consist of? What is it about? Physical, material, spiritual? How do we receive this? Okay? So we know In the world of education, there are various definitions of education, various purposes behind it, objectives. And I've managed to put together a few ideas which I've taken from various different authorities. And I've come up with this particular line where I say that education is something that cannot be addressed or even started with without referencing or taking cognizance of our belief systems, of our ultimate convictions about human nature, about our how we understand society, in fact, how we understand the universe, and lastly, how do you understand destiny? These are all things that impact upon how we formulate holistic education as Muslims. Okay? And I mentioned destiny in the sense that Allah Ta'ala says, وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى, that at the end of all things, your end, your final arrival will be in that sublime company of Allah Ta'ala. We don't know how it is, we don't know what it's like, but we will meet our Lord in that sublime assembly. And that is part of our destiny. We are destined to get there. So we have to learn all of these things. From these few facts that I've mentioned, I'm to understand the content of reality is important. Okay? An atheist doesn't relate to anything spiritual otherwise. They relate to everything which is muddy, this and that, and experimental and stuff like that, and empirical. That's the way they relate. Okay? Our relationship, however, as believing people and as Muslims are predominantly focused on ethical expressions and doing these things in an in-depth way, examining them, questioning them, interrogating these beautiful concepts of ethics in our lives, of morality. I mean, how often, during the fast, are we remiss in terms of our moral values, how the mistakes people make, how badly they fall off the cart, the cart of Ramadan into the street with their bad manners, and so on and so forth. It also includes the intellect, okay, intellectual side of it in a predominant fashion also, and also spiritual. And these we apply in all spheres of life: ethical, moral, intellectual, and spiritual. These we apply in all aspects of our lives. And the final goal, people, out of all of this is to attain balance and equilibrium. Our deen is a deen of wasatiyah, of middleness. Okay? Rabbana, the most often made dua, and I've said this so often, by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the dua, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Oh Allah Ta'ala, give us the best of this dunya and give us the best of the next, of the akhirah. Wa qina adhaban nar, and protect us from the punishment of the fire. So we see that balance. Give us the best of the dunya and the best of the akhirah. This is the challenge that faces any Muslims, any Muslim. How do we navigate our way through a plethora of humanity and difference of people, different peoples, different men, women, etc. The diversity is immense. How do we navigate ourselves through all of this and maintaining that wasatiyah that is so desired from us by the Quran, by Allah Ta'ala, and by Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So these are the few issues that I set out and intended to speak to you about tonight. I hope I have not left out anything important that I meant to say. However, just as a conclusion to all of this, I would like to do some ayat. However, not ayat, I would like to do some adhkar, a few of them, 3 or 4 of them. But I want to mention something that is in fact quite critical to everything that we know. and about this particular revelation. Surat Iqra, Surat Al-Alaq, is in fact the 97th surah in the Quran. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Okay, we've translated that. That's 86. 96. What is 97? And I don't think that this is fortuitous. I think this is so by divine decree. Because the order of the Quran was done through Jibreel to Muhammad ﷺ, and especially during the months of fast. Because the Quran is not in chronological order. In other words, it's not in the time order in which it was revealed. It was done from Allah Ta'ala through the instruction of Jibreel alayhi salam to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we start off with Surah Al-Baqarah on the one hand, and we end off with Surah Al-Nas on the other, right at the bottom. The main themes of my next talk, inshallah ta'ala, on a day will be about this. To speak about the relevance, the symbolism, etc., about the structure of the Quran. The Quran has Furqan, so many other names. There's so many. The Quran as Furqan, as other things also, and why these terms have been used. That I will do on Sunday. If it is on Sunday, I will do that at 10 o'clock, inshallah. However, what is quite fascinating, people, is that the next ayah, in the next surah, rather, after Surah Al-Alaq, is Surah Al-Qadr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna anzalnahu fi Laylat al Qadr. وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من ألف شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. سبحان الله. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر. Those 5 verses before Surah Al-Qadr, the only 5, those are the only 5 that were revealed. Okay? And this surah, Surah Al-Qadr, only consists of 5 ayah. Right? So you can recite them one back to back if you want to. It's amazing. However, this is more of a celebration of Iqra Bismi Rabbika Alladhi. Celebration in what sense? Where Allah Ta'ala says, indeed, we have revealed this Quran in a night of power or a night of decree. Doesn't matter which English word you use. Inna anzalna fi Laylat al Qadr. Wa ma adraka ma Laylat al Qadr. And what will make you understand what this night of power is, or this night of the great decree? Wa ma adraka ma Laylat al Qadr. And then it says, Laylat al Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. Laylat al Qadr is greater than 1,000 months. It does not mean that technically. This is not Arab idiom. It means an enormous status ascribed to that particular night. But we're not going to sit and compute 1,000 months and then compute how many rakats or sunnah, etc. we can do it. It's absolute nonsense. This is totally counterintuitive, and it's also counter to the Quranic methodology and methods of metaphors and things like that. It's counter to that. It means a huge amount of time, very, very, very long time. Okay, خير من ألف شهر. تنزل الملائكة, and the malaika والروح, they descend on that night. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن رب, through the permission of the Lord. بإذن ربي تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربي من كل أمر, with every order and command that Allah Ta'ala had given to them. And then the beautiful salam, peace, salamun hiya hatta matli al-fajr, until the dawn breaks. The beauty of the dawn breaks, both light and enlightening. That's what it means. We come from that so-called darkness in Ghar Hira at the time when he was there with the tahannuth, when he was sitting in there and meditating. And then this was cataclysmic event for him, with the revelation of, of, of the first surah ayat of the Quran, saying that we have to read, we have to research, we have to wake up, we have to go into the world, we have to learn, we have to teach other people, we have to learn about ourselves. Learning, teaching, knowledge, ilm, education, all becoming the center of the Muslim agenda and the Muslim objective, all of these. And so it says that on the night of Laylat al Qadr, that night of power, they will descend the Malaika and the Ruh. The Ruh there normally is considered to be Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. Salamun here, in peace, in great, enduring peace, hatta matla al-fajr, until the light of dawn emerges, the light of a new becoming, the light of new knowledge, the light of new inspiration, the light of an absolutely new becoming. A becoming. This Islam is a way of becoming also. It is a way of being. So once we have understood the gravity and the enormous responsibility that Allah Ta'ala has placed upon us as human beings with this very surah, Surah Al-Alaq, then we embrace Surah Al-Qadr, combine them, and swear that that will be our sublime and our divinely sanctioned purpose and quest in life, to share the beauty of all of these things with our fellow men, our fellow women, and everyone else. And when it comes to our children, to raise them on these values of holistic ilm that includes all of these elements: morality, ethics, spirituality, experimental knowledge, material knowledge, physical, all of these combined. We do not distinguish one between the other, because the entire created order is from Allah Ta'ala. وَالْأَوَّلُ وَالْآخِرُ وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ. He is the first, he is the last, he is the inner, and he is the outer. And remember that. That is so important for us to remember. So inshallah ta'ala, may we wake up one morning in the light of the dawn, the light of knowledge, the light of guidance, the light of new inspirations. Again, the revolutionize one's character, people, if we embrace these values and make them active within ourselves, and then become active within the communities, and stop our judgmentalism of this one, our condemnation of that one, our pillaring of the other person. Look at yourself first. Okay, as Imam Ghazali said, Rahimallahu abdan basrahu bi nafsihi. Allah Ta'ala has mercy upon his slave who has been granted insight into his own nafs, into his own faults and shortcomings. But you've got to do so in a positive manner, not in a gloomy manner and a despairing. La taqnatu. Muslims, la taqnatu min rahmatillah. Do not despair ever of the rahmah of Allah Ta'ala. This is not a deen about despair. This is a deen of happiness, of joy, of taqaddum, of moving forward, of spiritual advancement and ascension. This is what this deen is about. But we can only do this if we are interfacing with all of our fellow Muslims and humanity in a way that Allah Ta'ala wants us to do that. And the best way, the best stepping stone, the best point of departure for that is for us to embrace the beauty of the Quran and the beauty of the objectives as they're mentioned in Surah Al-Alaq, and also after that in Surah Al-Qadr. So with that, people, let me just at the end of this, let me requests have been just for short du'as that people want to make. Anytime during the month of Ramadan, we're nearly getting there, but it is never too late. In Ramadan, it is never too late. You can play back the video, I think, if you need to write them down or memorize them, but some of you do know that already. Let me quickly go through this, because we do it here and we do it at the Azzawiya, as you know, during normal Tarawih times. Okay? The first hadith I would like to say is an Aisha radiallahu anha and Abiha wa Ummiha. This hadith is from Sayyidina Aisha. She narrated from her father, Abu Bakr Siddiq, and from her mother. Her mother's name was Ruman Zainab bint Amir. Okay, bint Amir. So it was narrated she narrated from her parents, the mother and the father. And many of you will recognize this, where the Prophet then said, say, Allahumma innaka afun kareemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Okay, say that, Allahumma innaka afun kareemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Okay, that is, oh Allah Ta'ala, innaka afun, you are the great forgiver, you are kareem, generosity is infinite with you. Tuhibbul afwa, you love to forgive, so forgive us. And in the next one, there's a ziyada there where you say, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afwa wal-afiyah. Oh Allah Ta'ala, I ask you for forgiveness and also for help, to give us health. Wal-mu'afat ad-da'ima, and permanent release from all our sins or any sins that we might encounter. That is wal-mu'afat ad-da'ima. Where fi dini wa dunya wal akhirah, in our deen, in the dunya in which we live, and the akhirah to which we are going to, all of us are going to. And then the next short dhikr, of course, to remember, this is by Rawa ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas. He narrated this, and he said, Man kala, those who say this, the following, La ilaha illallah al-halim kareem, is no deity other than Allah. Allah is the Halim, He is the Clement, and He is the Kareem, He is the Beneficent. Subhana Rabbi Samawati as-Sab' wa Rabbi al-Arsh al-Azim. Glory to our Lord, glory to the Rabb, to our Rabb, who is the Rabb of both the heavens, of both the seven heavens, and also of the glorious throne. رب السماوات السبع ورب العرش العظيم. Let me just repeat that. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم سبحان رب السماوات السبع ورب العرش العظيم 3 times. 3 مرات. That's what it says. And at the end, very mustajab in this particular work, it is من قرأ آية الكرسي ليلة القدر كان أحب إلى الله تعالى من أن يختم القرآن في غيرها من الليالي. These are also just emphatic statements. It doesn't mean these literally, people, and many misunderstand this. This says, the Prophet said, those of you who recite Ayatul Kursi on the night of Laylat al Qadr, then that is more beloved to Allah Ta'ala من أن يختم القرآن في غيرها من الليالي. It's more beloved to Allah Ta'ala if you recite, the intention is to do it on a Laylatul Qadr. It is better than you completing the entire Quran in days other than Laylatul Qadr. But we can never be absolutely sure about when it is Laylatul Qadr. The majority is agreed on 27th, or at least the last 10 of the month. But all the scholars are agreed, people, that if you sit down with any dhikr, any wird, anything you want to do, and you niyat that this is for Laylatul Qadr, it can be at the beginning of the month, in the middle of the month, the beginning, you will get the thawab for that. As long as your niyat is to link it to Laylatul Qadr, people, and remember that. And the last bit of advice I would like to give you is, somebody asked about Tahajjud Salah. Okay, Tahajjud Salah, first of all, is best done in the last third of the night. Okay, if Maghrib is 8 o'clock and then 5 o'clock, it's Fajr, just divide it up into 3. And then the last third, that is the best time in which to perform your Tahajjud Salah. You perform your niyat for Tahajjud Salah and go into it. But you have to sleep before you get up for it, okay? So after your Witr Salah, your Isha Salah, you have to sleep and then wake up and then do it and then return to sleep. You can do it in quite a few ways. You can do it either just 2 rakats, Taslim, you can do it 4 rakats, two rotations each, 2 cycles, taslim, then 2 cycles, taslim, or you can do it 6 times or 8 times. Okay, and for those who can, they may recite long tracks in the Quran. If you have a hafid, say for example Surah Al-Baqarah, then you can recite the entire Surah Al-Baqarah. And for that, if you are not, and you know the shorter surahs, then it's better for you to start with in your first salah for tahajjud is to start with the Fatiha and then to recite Surah Al-Kafirun, Ya Al-Kafirun, okay, La Abudu wa Ta'budun, that particular one, and in the second rakah you recite Surah Al-Ikhlas. And then after that you can recite any other surahs, or you could repeat these surahs throughout them, whether you're doing 2, 4, 6, or 8 rotations, but each one of 2 cycles each, okay, with a taslim for each one. So that is just a response to some people that asked me about tahajjud, the last third of the night. Try to get a short sleep again after that before you do your fajr, inshallah. And may Allah Ta'ala bless us for our Ramadan, our fasting. May Allah Ta'ala accept everyone's fasting. You people have been phenomenal. Where we are concerned here, my brother and I, we make du'as for people that hopefully we hope that they are all mustajab, that you will reap the rewards of our du'as. That's all we can do for you, but we make intense and sincere du'a for you people. You are amazing people. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I'm proud to be at this Azzawiya. I'm proud to be Muslim. But I'm equally proud to be in your company, people. I say that to you with my heart. We are one family. طيب. والله تعالى أعلم بالصواب. شكرا.